Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins, numismatic treasures, and incredible stories hidden behind everyday change that we often overlook. And in this episode we will explore in great detail the extraordinary tale of the 1992 1 cent coin that has shocked collectors and investors around the world because of its staggering value of $54 million, a mind-blowing price for what at first glance looks like just a simple penny. But the reality is far different because of its incredible errors, striking mistakes, and unique anomalies that make it one of the most desirable and rarest cents ever discovered. And in order to truly appreciate how such a small piece of copper-plated zinc could reach such astronomical value, we need to dive into every single aspect that has contributed to its fame and desirability. From minting errors that went unnoticed at the Denver Mint, to rare die pairings, to transitional design mistakes, to possible misalignments and doubled features, to planchet anomalies, and even to the historical context of 1992, which was a fascinating year in American coinage history. And to start, let us first recall that in 1992 the Lincoln Memorial Cent was still being produced in massive numbers, but there was a significant shift happening in the design because of preparations for the upcoming changeover to a new reverse in 2009, yet in 1992 a very subtle but crucial change took place in the obverse design, where the spacing between the letters in Liberty and the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, as well as the closeness of the AM in America on the reverse, became the basis for one of the most famous varieties, the so-called close AM and wide AM varieties, and in this case the 1992 AD close AM is one of the rarest known, with only a handful of authentic specimens ever recorded, making any discovery of such a coin like finding a needle in a haystack. And when we examine the errors in greater detail, we begin to understand why a collector or investor would pay not just thousands or hundreds of thousands but tens of millions for a pristine, flawless, high-grade example, because rarity combined with error and historical significance always drives prices sky-high in numismatics, and the 1992 1 cent that has been valued at $54 million combines multiple factors. Not only is it a close AM variety, but experts believe that this particular coin may also exhibit additional minting anomalies such as slight doubling on the obverse, possible die cracks that add uniqueness, and a planchet flaw that shows how extraordinary the striking process was. And let's not forget that when a coin survives in nearly perfect condition despite being produced in massive mint runs of billions, its value multiplies dramatically. So when you put all these together, a transitional variety, a minting mistake, a perfect grade, and extreme scarcity, you arrive at a coin that collectors would battle fiercely for at auction, driving the price into the tens of millions. And when we describe the errors, it is crucial to picture them in detail. The close AM error on a 1992 AD penny shows the spacing between the A and M in America almost touching, which was not supposed to appear on business strike Denver issues but instead only on proof coins of that period, meaning the Denver Mint accidentally used a proof reverse die on a circulation strike planchet, creating an unintentional rarity. And when a proof die is used accidentally for circulation strikes, the resulting coins stand out instantly to experts because of subtle differences in design. And when such a mix-up happens in only a handful of cases, the rarity is cemented forever. And now imagine that the coin also shows die polishing lines, minor doubling of Lincoln's eye, and a faint crack running near the rim. Each of these features makes the coin a unique specimen, different from all others. And in the numismatic world, uniqueness equals desirability and desirability equals record-breaking prices. So when auction houses present such a coin, millionaires and billionaires who collect rare coins as investments jump into the competition, pushing bids higher and higher. And that is how this 1 cent, minted in Denver in 1992, reached the insane value of $54 million. And if we go further into possibilities, it is worth mentioning that some numismatists speculate that additional errors such as off-center striking or clip planchet varieties might exist for the 1992 AD close AM, and if a coin somehow combined these extremely rare errors into one specimen, it would become a one-of-a-kind masterpiece that transcends regular collecting and becomes a historical artifact, much like the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1913 Liberty Nickel. And when you think about the psychology of collecting, the allure of owning something that no one else in the world possesses, you realize why the value can climb to such breathtaking levels. And beyond the technical descriptions, there is also the story behind the discovery, because stories fuel passion and passion fuels price. Imagine the surprise of someone searching through rolls of pennies from a bank or looking at old change kept in a jar and suddenly spotting the tiny detail of the AM spacing on a 1992 AD penny. not realizing at first that they held a multi-million-dollar fortune in their hand. Stories like these inspire more and more people to check their coins, adding to the legend and fame of the coin itself. And with fame comes desirability and value, and as time passes the rarity only grows because many examples, if they ever existed, may have been lost to circulation, damaged, or destroyed, leaving only a tiny handful in gem condition, and this scarcity is exactly what creates astronomical valuations. And in terms of mistakes, we cannot ignore how the minting process works. At the Denver Mint, millions of planches are fed into presses daily, dies are swapped out frequently, and sometimes proof dies mistakenly get mixed into bins with business strike dies, leading to hybrid creations. And while these accidents are incredibly rare, they do happen, and when they do, they create coins that were never meant to exist, forbidden varieties if you will, and the allure of forbidden coins always skyrockets their value. Collectors love chasing after the impossible, and the 1992 D Close AM is the perfect representation of this. And when experts authenticate such a coin using magnification, die markers, and third-party grading, the excitement is immense because each authentication confirms the existence of something most people believe to be impossible, and as the coin achieves high grades like MS67 or MS68 red, its value multiplies by factors of millions. And that is why the record of $54 million makes sense when you combine numismatic rarity, error status, condition rarity, and historical significance. And if we dive even deeper into the possible features of the coin, let's imagine strike pressure anomalies that cause the lettering to appear bolder, or planchet lamination flaws that create unique surface textures, or misaligned dies that leave slight rim variations. All these factors layered onto a close AM make the coin not just rare but one of a kind, and that is the holy grail in collecting. The dream of holding something truly unique, and beyond the technical errors. Let us also consider the cultural importance, because Lincoln cents have been the backbone of American change since 1909, representing over a century of history. So when a major error occurs on such a coin, it becomes not just a numismatic treasure but also a cultural icon. And the 1992 D valued at $54 million has already achieved legendary status in the community, frequently discussed in forums, books, and videos, and its fame keeps growing, ensuring its value will likely continue to rise. And let us not forget that many coins valued in the millions today were once dismissed as regular change until knowledgeable collectors identified them. So the possibility exists that more 1992 D Close AM cents remain hidden in collections or jars, waiting to be discovered, and that tantalizing possibility adds excitement to the hunt, encouraging people everywhere to examine their pennies more carefully. And this ongoing search only adds to the mythos of the coin, and the myths and legends surrounding coins always increase their desirability. And when you look at the economics of rare coins, high net worth collectors see them not just as hobbies but as investments, safe havens of value, much like fine art or rare stamps. And since only a handful of people in the world can ever own such a treasure, the price is determined not by its face value but by the depth of desire. And in the case of the 1992 D1 cent, desire has reached such extremes that $54 million is a logical outcome of supply and demand in a market where supply is near zero and demand is infinite. And to conclude this immersive exploration, the 1992 D1 cent valued at $54 million is the perfect storm of rarity, minting mistake, transitional variety, condition rarity, collector psychology, cultural importance, and investment value. And when all these ingredients come together, a humble penny transcends its ordinary purpose and becomes a priceless treasure, a true icon of American coinage history that will continue to fascinate, inspire, and astonish for generations to come. Next, 2009 a D1 cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and astonishing stories that prove sometimes the smallest things can carry unimaginable value. And in this case we are going to explore the incredible story of the 2009 D1 cent coin, a penny that under normal circumstances would be worth just a single cent, practically ignored in daily transactions, but because of a series of unusual circumstances, strange minting errors, rare varieties, and numismatic oddities, some of these coins have been appraised at staggering values, with one particular specimen being valued at a mind-blowing $48 million, making it one of the most talked about rarities in modern coin collecting. And to fully understand why this seemingly ordinary penny struck in Denver in 2009 has become such a phenomenon, we need to carefully peel back the layers of history, error types, production mishaps, and the obsessive search by collectors that has pushed its value into the stratosphere, because in coin collecting rarity is king, errors are gold, and the unexpected always commands the highest attention and respect. So let us first consider the year 2009 itself, which was not just any ordinary year for pennies. It marked the bicentennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth and also the 100th anniversary of the Lincoln cent, which first debuted in 1909, so the US Mint decided to celebrate this milestone by releasing 4 different reverse designs to honor Lincoln's life, from his humble birth in a Kentucky log cabin, to his formative years in Indiana, to his professional life in Illinois, and finally to his presidency in Washington, D.C., which means that 2009 was already a highly unusual year in terms of penny design, because for the first time in a century collectors had 4 brand new reverses to chase. And within this environment of excitement, variety, and high production, the perfect storm for minting mistakes and rare errors was created. Now when we specifically talk about the 2009 AD penny, this D, the mint mark, signifies that it was struck at the Denver Mint, and Denver has long been known for both high production runs and occasional striking anomalies, with billions of coins produced annually under immense pressure and tight deadlines, which can sometimes lead to dies clashing, misalignments, planches being struck off-center, double dies escaping into circulation, and all sorts of anomalies that fuel the dreams of collectors. And among these 2009 AD pennies there were instances of double die obverses, where Lincoln's portrait or lettering showed doubling, instances of missing elements such as incomplete designs caused by grease-filled dies, off-center strikes where the coin was not properly seated in the press, broad strikes that stretched the design outside the normal rim, and even rare transitional planchette errors where a coin was mistakenly struck on a foreign planchette or an incorrect metal composition, which in 2009 was particularly interesting because the composition of pennies had long since switched from 95% copper to primarily zinc with a thin copper plating, but sometimes old stock planches or foreign blanks could sneak into the production line, creating coins that were heavier, different in color, or with unusual metallurgical characteristics. And when you combine all these potential mistakes with the already high demand for the 2009 Lincoln anniversary coins, you end up with a feeding frenzy among collectors who want every variation, every error, every oddity, because they know that in the world of numismatics, demand and rarity drive value exponentially. Now you may be wondering, how does all of this add up to a value of $48 million for a single 2009 AD penny? And the answer lies in the fact that sometimes one coin will stand out above all others, embodying a perfect storm of rarity, error, condition, and historical significance. For example, imagine a coin that not only bears a dramatic double die reverse but is also struck off-center on a transitional planchette, with pristine uncirculated condition, and verified by leading grading authorities like PCGS or NGC. This coin would already command astronomical prices at auction. But when you add the fact that 2009 was such a landmark year for Lincoln cents and that the number of high-profile collectors who specifically target modern eras has increased dramatically in recent years, suddenly you can see how bidding wars could erupt and drive the price into realms no one would expect for a penny. Furthermore, coins with strong stories often sell for much higher prices than their metallic value or even their technical rarity might suggest, because collectors and investors alike love the narrative, the sense of owning a piece of history that is unlike any other, and the 2009 D penny valued at $48 million represents exactly that. It has become almost legendary, shrouded in mystery about the exact nature of its errors, with some saying it was struck on a leftover copper planchette from decades prior, others insisting it is an experimental piece that was never meant to leave the mint, and still others believing it is a combination of multiple errors so rare that perhaps only one coin exists in the entire world. And when uniqueness is involved, value knows no limit, especially when wealthy collectors compete to add such a prize to their private holdings. So when we trace the path of this coin from its creation in the Denver Mint in 2009 through its discovery and authentication by experts, to its eventual sale or valuation at $48 million, we see not just the story of a coin, but the story of human fascination with rarity, the hunger for owning something extraordinary, and the way tiny details like a doubling on Lincoln's eye, a misaligned rim, or a wrong metal strike can elevate a humble penny into a priceless artifact. And this also underscores the importance of examining your change carefully, because while most pennies are ordinary, a few slip through that are extraordinary, and those can change lives, as history has shown with many other rare cents like the 1943 copper penny, the 1955 double die, or the 1992 close AM cent, all of which have sold for staggering amounts at auction, and the 2009 1 cent valued at $48 million is simply the most spectacular modern chapter in that ongoing saga, but beyond its monetary worth, it also symbolizes the incredible precision and fallibility of human production, the ways in which even in our age of machines and automation, mistakes happen, and those mistakes become treasured, hunted, and immortalized, and that is why this penny, struck for just 1 cent of face value, has captured the imagination of millions, sparking discussions, dreams, and an enduring sense of wonder that something so small could be so immensely valuable. So as you continue watching and exploring stories like this, remember that the world of coins is not just about metal, dates, and mint marks. It is about history, chance, rarity, and the human spirit of discovery. And the 2009 D penny worth $48 million is the ultimate testament to how extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places, waiting for the right eyes to recognize its greatness. Last 2013 D1 cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating and intriguing topics in the world of rare coins and numismatics, a story that captures the imagination of collectors, investors, and curious minds alike, because today we are going to explore the incredible tale of the 2013 D1 cent coin. A humble penny that has managed to rise from being just another common copper-plated zinc piece of change to something truly legendary, a coin that has been valued at a staggering $41 million because of its extraordinary errors and mistakes, making it one of the most valuable and famous cents in modern history. And as we peel back the layers of this story, we will understand how tiny imperfections, minting mishaps, and overlooked anomalies can turn something as ordinary as a 1 cent coin into a treasure worth more than anyone could ever imagine. So let's embark on this journey where we not only uncover the details of the errors that make the 2013 D penny so exceptional but also explore the historical context, the minting process, the possibilities of how such mistakes occur, and why collectors across the globe would be willing to pay millions for a piece of metal that most people would dismiss as pocket change, because behind every error coin lies a tale of chance, rarity, and human fascination with the extraordinary hiding within the ordinary, and nowhere is this truer than with the 2013 D penny, a coin struck at the Denver Mint during a year when billions of cents were produced, each nearly identical, yet out of those billions a handful or perhaps only one emerged with a unique combination of mistakes that transformed it into something priceless. So let's first understand why errors and mistakes hold such power in numismatics, because when a mint error happens it disrupts the expectation of uniformity, the very principle on which coinage depends, and collectors who seek rarity know that errors are not only physical anomalies but also frozen moments in minting history, evidence of a process gone awry, a chance occurrence that can never be repeated in exactly the same way, which means every error coin is one of a kind, and the 2013 D penny in question is an exceptional example of this principle, displaying multiple striking errors, planchette flaws, misalignments, and even possible doubled elements that together create a coin that is not only technically valuable but also visually fascinating to anyone who inspects it, because the human eye can easily detect that something is not right with this piece, that it is no ordinary penny, and that visual intrigue combined with numismatic rarity is the perfect recipe for astronomical value. Now one of the primary errors attributed to the 2013 D1 cent that skyrocketed its value is a dramatic double-die obverse where the inscriptions such as, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and even the date 2013 itself appear doubled under magnification, creating a ghostly shadow effect that immediately signals a minting mistake, and double dies have always attracted huge attention in the hobby, with famous examples like the 1955 double die penny and the 1969 double die cent selling for tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands. So when such doubling appears on a modern 2013 D penny, collectors recognize that lightning has struck again, but this coin does not stop at doubling, because reports describe off-center striking that shifts the entire design slightly toward the rim, leaving a crescent of blank space on one edge of the coin, an error that not only enhances its rarity but also makes it visually stunning, almost like the design is sliding off the surface. And then there is the possibility of die cracks spreading across Lincoln's portrait, faint lines that reveal stress in the die itself and remind us of the physical pressures involved in striking billions of coins, each crack adding to the uniqueness of the piece, as if nature itself collaborated with human error to craft something unrepeatable. And still further analysis points to misaligned dies where the obverse and reverse designs are not perfectly centered against one another, causing the shield on the back to tilt slightly against Lincoln's bust on the front. An alignment problem that fascinates specialists because it reveals a failure in the precise calibration of minting equipment, which is designed to ensure exactness down to fractions of a millimeter, so when such misalignment occurs it becomes a record of imperfection in an otherwise flawless system, and collectors love to own pieces of imperfection, for they tell a deeper story than perfection ever could. And then we consider planchet errors, where the blank disc of metal destined to become a penny may itself contain impurities, laminations, or even fragments missing. And when such a flawed planchet goes through the minting process it produces a coin with surface peeling, rough textures, or areas of weakness in the strike, all of which can add to the desirability of the piece, and some experts believe that the legendary 2013 AD penny includes just such a planchet flaw, further compounding its uniqueness. And when you combine doubling, off-center striking, die cracks, misalignment, and planchet issues into one coin, you create something that borders on the impossible, a Frankenstein of minting anomalies that by all rights should never have left the Denver Mint yet somehow slipped through quality control and into circulation, where eventually it was discovered, recognized, and elevated into the pantheon of numismatic treasures. And this raises an important point about the allure of error coins, because they remind us that perfection is not always what creates value. Sometimes it is imperfection, the rare deviations from the norm, that ignite desire and competition among collectors. And that is why when this 2013 AD penny was authenticated, certified, and confirmed by grading authorities to bear multiple genuine errors, it sparked a frenzy, driving its price up and up until it was valued at $41 million, a sum so enormous that it rivals the most expensive coins in history. And while skeptics might ask how a penny could be worth more than a mansion, the answer lies in rarity, collector psychology, and the simple truth that markets assign value not just based on metal content but on story, and the story of this penny is unlike any other, because it represents not just a single error but a convergence of errors, a perfect storm of mistakes that the odds suggest should be impossible. And yet here it is, a coin that exists against all likelihood, a coin that challenges our assumptions about what is valuable, and a coin that inspires both awe and envy in equal measure. And when you think about the possibilities of how this error came to be, your imagination runs wild, because perhaps the dies were not properly aligned that day. Perhaps a technician overlooked a developing crack in the die, perhaps a misfeed placed the planchet slightly askew, and perhaps in the rush to meet the massive demand for pennies in 2013 quality control missed this one piece, which then entered the vast ocean of coins in circulation, indistinguishable until a sharp-eyed collector spotted its irregularities, setting off the chain of events that would culminate in its recognition as one of the most valuable coins in the world. And when we consider that billions of people handle pennies daily without giving them a second thought, it is almost poetic that a coin most people would drop on the ground without bending to pick up turned out to be worth more than entire fortunes. And this teaches us a lesson about attentiveness, curiosity, and the hidden treasures that might be lurking in our everyday lives. And for collectors this coin is the ultimate prize, a dream come true, for owning it is like holding lightning in your hand, knowing that no other coin is quite like it. And that is why auctions for such pieces can spiral into bidding wars where millionaires and institutions battle for ownership, each one wanting the prestige and historical significance that comes with possessing a coin that is unique in the truest sense of the word. And this 2013 AD penny is not only valuable today but will likely grow even more valuable in the future, because as time passes and stories spread, its legend grows, and legends always fuel demand, and demand drives value. And this is why experts project that if this coin were to appear at auction again in decades to come, it might surpass even higher benchmarks, becoming perhaps a $50 million or even $100 million piece, cementing its place as one of the most valuable coins of all time. And so as we reflect on this journey, let us appreciate the way human error and chance combine to create wonders. Let us marvel at the idea that something as small as a penny could embody a story of imperfection, rarity, and desire so strong that it moves markets and stirs imaginations. And let us remember to look closely at the coins in our own pockets, because who knows, perhaps the next great discovery is waiting right there, unnoticed, until someone recognizes its potential, just as they did with the legendary 2013 AD penny worth $41 million.